Evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for coming in this evening, and thank you, Jorge, for that beautiful introduction. Following on from Mrs. Kaur's presentation tonight, I will be presenting a case on Reza and his family, just to provide an insight on how working with culture and trauma when child protection issues emerge in refugee families. I have permission from the family to present this case tonight. Reza is definitely not his real name, and I've also changed some key details about the family just to keep their identity safe as well. Okay, so the aims of the evening's presentation is to look into how refugees and their families are coming into more contact with child protection services in Australia. It will focus on how all services involved work in conjunction with the family's values, cultural, traditional, religious practices, as it was paramount in achieving a positive, respectful and supportive outcome. So Reza is a 14-year-old male. He was born in Afghanistan and he grew up in Kabul. The family was targeted by the Taliban due to their being an ethnic minority of Hazara background and their religious beliefs of being Shia Muslims within a predominant Sunni practice. Reza's father arrived by boat in 2009 seeking protection in Australia. After his application was successful, he brought out the rest of his family through the family reunion program. Reza, the referral came from Reza's school due to his trauma and behavioural symptoms, and we completed about 35 sessions together, and they were all conducted in English. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. So I obtained fragmented information about the family's history throughout my time with the client, and I really basically had to put it together like a puzzle. And I know a lot of us here at STARS are fully aware that when we work with refugees, it's really hard and sometimes can be really difficult to get information. Some of the information comes in bits and pieces. Sometimes they might remember something, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they might tell you in the 10th session, oh, this happened, which maybe it would have been more beneficial in the first session. But however, as clinicians, we really need to put this puzzle together and try and give them a space and time for them to explain that to us. Reza is the youngest of 7 children. He came with his mother and his siblings to be reunited with their father. Reza was only 3 years old when his father fled to Australia. Reza was mainly brought up by his eldest brother as he took responsibility for the family. Reza rarely attended school due to the dangerous environment in Kabul. Reza was trained in boxing on a daily basis with his brother because he owned a gym there. And the main purpose why he was trained there was to actually defend himself from the Taliban and also the bad people in the neighbourhood. Reza is absolutely obsessed with soccer. So in Kabul, he used to play with his eldest brother that was 16 years old and his family and his friends there. He has a very close relationship with his mother and his sister. Reza arrived to Australia about when he was about 10 years old, and he really did not get along with his father, as he absolutely refused to consider him as the cultural and traditional main authoritarian figure in the family. In order to establish discipline with Reza, his father would use traditional physical discipline, especially when Reza would get into trouble at school. Reza would defend himself by retaliating also through physical means. Physical means, Reza would, and then somehow Reza went up to one of his teachers while he was at school and informed the teacher. The teacher then informed family and community services. And the disclosure happened around the 7th session that we were together. At this stage, I became involved with child protection, and I'll talk more about that procedure later on in the presentation as well. So Reza's father was reluctant to provide me with any information during the assessment session and would become very, very frustrated. When I suggested to him that if it would be possible, would I be able to speak to his mother, he absolutely refused and the session was over. However, the majority of the family's trauma experiences was obtained by Reza's mother and his elder sister when they were engaged with me once child protection was involved. Some of the information that I did gain was that Reza's father was imprisoned for 2 years in 2002, and during that time he was tortured and traumatised by the Taliban, and he actually suffered a brain injury as well. Father was continuously targeted by the Taliban, so he fled by boat to Australia in 2009. The family was left behind to defend themselves and was traumatised by years of war and violence due to the religious background. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it was really difficult initially to engage with Reza and to do any sort of assessment sessions with him. So when I discovered that he absolutely loves soccer and is a major fan of Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't know if anybody knows who that is. I fully know who it is because I work with so many boys that absolutely love him. And he was actually playing for Real Madrid during that time. So I even know about soccer teams now. So I knew at that point, that was the best time that I could engage with Reza. So during our sessions, we talked about soccer a lot. We played around with the ball and we practiced soccer moves. So if anybody needs any sort of soccer moves, come to me. I will teach you. I have learnt a lot from him. So after about 10 sessions, he agreed to actually complete the Child PTSD Symptom Scale. And this assessment tool is a guide that scores the severity of PTSD symptoms. And his total score was actually 26, and he was categorised in the moderately severe. And you could tell more with that as I go along as well. The test scores were very consistent with the information that was obtained by Reza's father, mother, sister, the school counsellor, school principal and a deputy as well. Reza was having major triggers when he thought about his trauma in Afghanistan. He had major difficulties connecting with the school, making friends as he lacked a lot of social skills because we've got to remember he wasn't really at school. When he was in Kabul, he automatically thought that his peers were talking about him, laughing behind his back, teasing him, bullying him, and also discriminating against his religious beliefs. So his automatic thought response was just to fight back physically. So the complex interaction model is used at STARTS, and it's actually a very helpful model. It basically provides a clearer view on how multiple cumulative factors have integrated over time and impacted on Reza and his family's current psychological health and coping capacity. So we've already talked about a lot of this prior to this slide coming up on the individual factors. So based on the information provided, there were several key compounding factors that need to be considered and acknowledged. This includes Reza's impact experiences of trauma, resettlement challenges, and the normal life cycle challenge. In addition, the Australian environment, including societal attitudes towards refugees, and also government policies that reflect this as well. When considering the case formulation for the treatment plan, I took into account Reza's early life and family trauma experiences, but I also included the physical discipline that he was getting from his father. I hypothesised that these experiences and relationships have contributed to Reza's core belief of how he sees himself, others, and also the world around him. These beliefs resulted in Reza's presenting biological, psychological, and also social-related symptoms. Further to this, I considered his stresses and protective factors. I took into account his core beliefs as a result of his early childhood and trauma experiences. Reza's flight and fight responses resulted in an automatically defending himself through physical means, because he just thought it was a threat straight away, whether it would be at home, at school, and during soccer. So based on my case formulation and the complex interaction, I was able to assist child protection and other supporting services with the assessment and intervention in working with Reza and his family within a culturally sensitive approach, a child protection approach. Providing my clinical assessment assisted child protection in having a deeper understanding of the family's pre- and post-migration experiences. They were further able to assess the family's cultural and traditional practices, including gender roles, child rearing, views on physical and mental health. There were several points that child protection addressed with the family. And the first would be that Reza's needs in relation to his childhood and adolescent developmental history. And the second thing would be also Reza's separation from his father, as it was really disrupted and caused a lot of family breakdowns and intense conflict within the parenting style. Even though intergenerational conflict in raising children is normal and occurs in families from all cultural backgrounds, Reza's father's parenting style in addressing this was to use some sort of physical punishment. So, Reza's father became very frustrated when child protection was involved because they were interfering in his cultural practices and parental right of discipline. So in order to help his father understand the mandatory reporting, because as we know, when we work with children, we are mandatory reporters, so we really have to think about how are we going to be able to address this in the most sensitive way possible. So we discussed how child protection in Islam does not only lie with him or me, but also it needs to be provided by the necessary services for the well-being and proper development of his child. We further discussed experience of how families within a collective society work as well, because he does come from a very collective society. But then he said to me, but I am Muslim. So I use this opportunity as a soft point to discuss how Islam provides Islam child protection practices safeguards children from physical, verbal and psychological violence. We explored how he participates in the congregational Friday prayer within his local community mosque. We particularly focused on the sermon, which is an Islamic preacher, that occurs just before the prayer by the Sheikh. He pointed out that the Sheikh stresses the importance of raising children within the teaching of Islam as it was conveyed by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We further discussed how difficult it is for him when he is very angry. It's really difficult for him to differentiate what is a cultural practice and also what is an Islamic approach to discipline. To show the importance of patience in Islam, we discussed and referred to how one of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, asked him for advice. The Prophet said, and emphasized this 3 times, do not get angry, do not get angry, do not get angry. Although anger is a natural emotion experienced by every person, but it can have serious consequences on himself and the people around him. So we also discussed how Prophet Muhammad advised his people how to use coping and calming strategies. We explored practices that he was also using, but we were able to, in the session, emphasize it, and he was able to empower himself to also tell me what he could use. So one of the first things that he talked about was sitting in a really calm place and engaging in dhikr. And dhikr is a rhythmic repetition of the name of Allah, which is in Arabic, I will say it. And we usually do this also with deep breathing as well. So we try and control our breathing, which is Allahu, Allahu. So it's really breathing in and then breathing out through your mouth. And this means Allah exists. The second one is making dua, which is supplication. So when we were discussing this together and coming up with something, he actually said to me, okay, so our final result was, oh Allah, increase my patience and help me guide my family. Because I know that there was, there were issues within his family, but he did really love his family and he did really want to protect them as well. So that was something that he came up with. Also listening to the Quran, and I will be reciting something shortly and just give you a gist of what it actually sounds like. Changing your posture. So the Prophet Muhammad advised us that if you are standing and you're very angry, sit down. If you are sitting and you are very angry, lay down. It's really learning how to change that posture and try to move and relax the body. Also performing wudu with this is actually ablution, and it's a ritual where we use water to cleanse our body and to clean our body through prayer, before prayer time. So it's really washing the face, washing your arms, your head, your neck, and your feet as well. And the final thing was also just seeking refuge in God. You know, it was more in Arabic, the way we say it is seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know that he spoke Dari, but a lot of the words that we used was also spoken in Arabic because a lot of it is words from the Quran as well. So I think that really connected us as well in our sessions. We further explored how So these techniques actually are considered as mindfulness, grounding, and visualization techniques. So if we want to really incorporate the East and the West, we put this together and it works really well. We further explored how child protection works with refugee families from diverse cultural backgrounds and explores parenting skills that incorporates cultural and Islamic practices without physical discipline as it is not endorsed in Australia, and sometimes can be considered as a criminal act. So it wasn't really seeking out him, child protection is just working with him because he is from a Hazara background. Child protection works with all different cultures and they try and do their best to try and incorporate what works best for them. He then agreed with the support of child protection to be referred to Woodville Alliance to assist the family. Woodville Alliance also organised a referral for him and his wife to participate in a parenting program that specialises with adolescent development and also from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Within an Islamic context, we further explored the importance of helping oneself in order to be able to help his family. So at this point, I was able to make a referral to STARTS to address his own trauma issues, which was really important for him as well, to have that space just for him. So due to the safety of Reza, Child Protection decided in partnership with the family and other supporting services that Reza would live with his sister. His sister insisted on taking on the responsibility as she believed it was her religious duty. She discussed with me and called it al-amana. She described it as the family entrusting her to take care of the well-being of her brother, and also that she will be rewarded for her good deeds in this life and the hereafter. So I really wanted to support her through this. So supporting her through the transition, she actually focused the session on telling me that her Islamic beliefs were more important to her than her cultural beliefs. She explained that in the Quran, it mentions al-amana in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 72. So I'm just going to bring that up right now. as it's on one of my apps. I'm not going to be able to say it myself, but if I could just get you maybe to relax your posture, put your feet, together on the floor, just like you're doing some sort of mindfulness. Maybe close your eyes as well. Do your deep breathing, and then I can explain to you actually what it means.
إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا.
We did offer.
Okay, thank you. So what does this mean? What was she trying to explain to me? Surely we offered the heavens, earth, and the mountains to undertake an entrusted responsibility, but they refused, fearing that they won't be able to carry out the responsibility as entrusted. However, man, which also means men and women, accepted to undertake it. Surely man is unjust when disobeying the orders and ignorant of the burden of such a responsibility. So she took on this responsibility very seriously, and she really needed our support here at Starts to help her through this as well. She further explained to me that Islamically, everybody is responsible for certain people and will be questioned for their responsibility on the day of judgment. She spoke to me about the role of the parents, the family, and also community members as well. Reza's sister was very persistent in making sure that she was fulfilling her Islamic duties, but this al-amana came with many struggles. Reza's sister also suffered from trauma symptoms and was also experiencing financial difficulties. Child Protection was able to connect her with Centrelink to help her with payments for Reza, and also allocating a Child Protection caseworker, especially for her, in order to help Reza if any issues would arise. In addition, I was also able to make a referral for his sister as well to be supported at Starts. Also, again, like her father, just to have that safe place for herself as well. So Child Protection and Starts actually organised a case conference with all stakeholders involved to share information about Reza and his family. This included discussion around the family's concern, challenges, but also not forgetting their strengths as well, and also interventions that each service was going to use to assist the family. Throughout my work with the services, it was really important that I provided relevant information about the impact of trauma and increased awareness of cultural sensitivity issues and any recommendations that they needed. Because Child Protection was quite, they knew a lot about culture, they knew a lot about these things, so I was really there just as a consultation, also just to provide any recommendations as well. Child Protection's main focus was the safety, of course, of Reza, and also liaising with all the supporting services that have been put in place. I focused on the continuous treatment with Reza in processing his trauma, exploring his acting out behaviours due to his feelings of frustration, difficulties in dealing with his emotions, and also resettling in a new culture. Woodville Alliance focused on parenting support and provided psychoeducation in relation to intergenerational conflict. They focused on how it is entirely normal, I think, as everybody knows, and very healthy for Reza to push the boundaries and express his own independence as he develops and grows into his individual identity. In addition, the importance of learning how to deal with disagreements and conflict appropriately, as it's a part of parenting and also a part of adolescent behaviour. The school played also a major role. They assisted in the academic difficulties that Reza was having, maintaining supportive friendships, looking into interventions and strategies to help him with his anger and his aggressive behaviour at school. And also what I found was really good and very important as well was also the soccer coach. He was a great mentor to Reza, and he was actually helping him play an amazing game that he absolutely loves within a team setting as well. So it was really good that Child Protection was able to, with Starts, to bring all these services together to work holistically. So, oh, sorry, I keep going back. So we're moving on towards the end of the presentation. So what were the treatment outcomes? So as we can see, there was reduced intensity of symptoms. Fax and Woodville Alliance established and provided a culturally sensitive relationship with the family. The parents would have regular visits to see Reza at his sister's house. Reza's parents continued to attend the parenting support group. Reza's school attendance had increased and he established more positive relationships at school, and also his behaviour settled. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but any progress is good progress. Reza continued to play soccer at his club, and what was really good that his parents would actually go and watch the games on the weekend as well. And Reza's parents, Reza's dad and the sister also continued their counselling sessions at school. So just reflecting on this, I'd just like to say that throughout my consultation with Child Protection, they had a better grasp and awareness of the family's trauma, cultural, traditional practices. Advocating for the family resulted in better meeting their needs and developing an individualised family intervention plan that best suits them rather than a generalised perspective on a particular cultural group. I think this is absolutely important. And one of the things that actually made this case study even more successful is that his sister was able to take him on. I mean, just culturally, if there was another family taking on Reza, it would not have worked as well as this. So for Child Protection, Starts, and the family working together, we were able to really achieve a very good outcome. So just to finish off and conclude my session with Reza. Okay, so one of our sessions I can't remember which one it was, not the best memory, but we were looking for some quotes, and he actually found a quote that he chose, and it's "Be strong, be brave, and go beyond." Cristiano Ronaldo. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly. If anyone would like any soccer move, lessons after this, I'll be more than happy. If you have a soccer ball, I did not bring one with me. So thank you very much, everybody.